One of the most common errors in QuickBooks that can get out of hand in a hurry if you aren't paying attention and reconciling at the end of the month is accidentally putting a transaction into QuickBooks twice. You, it winds up as a duplicate entry, two entries, instead of one side of it being put into your QuickBooks file, the other side coming in through the bank feed, and then those getting matched together. Okay, and here's a simulation of how that can happen. It can happen in a lot of ways. I see it a lot with when people are using the receipt snap feature. They'll receipt snap and go ahead and categorize the transaction when the receipt comes in. And so that adds an entry to the QuickBooks side of their file. And then when the actual transaction clears the bank or credit card, for whatever reason, QuickBooks didn't find the match to it, and they've categorized that as well. And so what happens is you wind up with two entries or duplicates. So that so basically you've counted an expense twice. Okay. So to do an example or a simulation, I'm going to go into the bank feed. So this is the bank side of QuickBooks where it has logged into the bank account and brought in all the transactions. So I'm going to take this $1,200 transaction here, and I'm going to say that it was for equipment rental and add it to QuickBooks. Normally you would do a little bit more to that. And then let's say after the fact, you went through and you sent your receipts into the receipt bin and it didn't see a match, or you were going in and manually putting something into QuickBooks like an expense. So if I go into create an expense, and I'm going to say it was out of the checking account and it was on 223, and I'm going to say it was for equipment rental and it was $1,200. Okay, so basically what happens here is you'd already categorized it from the bank feed, and then you added the expense to QuickBooks. Like I said, this can happen in a variety of ways. It can come in through the receipt snap. It can happen after the fact. It could happen where you put an expense in QuickBooks and the date was way different, or you put the wrong payment account and QuickBooks couldn't find a match. And instead of researching why it's not matched, you just categorized this transaction that came through the bank feed also and created a duplicate. So I'm going to hit save and close here. And even before we look at what it's going to look like when you go to reconcile at the end of the month, I'll show you what it looks like in your checking account. So if I look at the register of the checking account now, you can see here's an expense for the equipment rental for 1,200, and here's a second one. This one has a C and the green rectangle around it. This is the one we categorized off the bank feed. It's saying this C and this rectangle are showing that it is a transaction that has come in from the bank feed. Well, this was the expense that we added manually, or like I said, it could come through the receipt snap feature. But if those weren't matched when they came through the bank feed, then you're going to have duplicate transactions here, which is now throwing off your ending balance. There's an extra $1,200 that has been subtracted out of your checking account balance on the QuickBooks side. Okay, now if you miss this during the month, where you'll catch it is during the reconciliation process at the end of the month. One of the reasons why it's important to put in and make sure you reconcile at the end of each month. I don't know the exact statement ending balance. I'm just using this for a simulation. And I'm going to say it's at the end of February. And ignore everything else, but you can see when I go down here, normally you would have more of these checked off, that sort of thing. But just for our simulation, you can see down here that the transaction that came through the bank feed, that one's checked off. And then we have a second one right here, okay? And so your bank feed is, even if QuickBooks got the difference to 0, it would still, your QuickBooks side, your QuickBooks file would have $1,200 more deducted out of the balance than what's real, because you've put this in here twice you've got a duplicate instead of matching. So you have a couple different options. If it's a receipt, if this one that is not, you don't ever want to delete the one that cleared the bank, typically, because it's going to just take it off of your QuickBooks file. It's going to kick it back over to the bank feed. Now you could do that and then rematch it. So if you've got this one that did not come through the bank feed, you added it. If it has a receipt attached to it, something along those lines, and you don't want to have to redo anything by bring in your receipt or anything along those lines, then you could delete um, this one, and it's just going to kick this back to the bank feed, and then you can search for the match. Okay. Typically, what I do to just keep things moving along is I'll click on the one that has not cleared the bank feed, hit edit, and if I looked over on the reconciliation page and I'd categorize them both the same, there's nothing here that I really need any details or information that I really need to keep. It's completely a duplicate of the other one. Then I'll just go down here to the More button, hit delete, and it'll take that extra one back off of the QuickBooks file. And now it's not going to show up. So that's how you take care of duplicates in your QuickBooks file.